Here are some examples of when you might need to manually enroll an attendee. Maybe somebody forgot to sign up ahead of time for your class. Or maybe your event allows walk-ins, such as a drop-in lab, where people don't have to register ahead of time. Here's how you add people to your roster. First, you need to be on the roster page for your class. If you were on the attendance screen, you'll want to click on the roster tab to its left. This is one of those pages in Cornerstone that has a whole lot of stuff going on. The part that we want is down toward the bottom left. Click on the link for Add Users. A pop-up window will appear where you can search for the people that you want to add to the class. In this example, let's say that test staff wasn't originally signed up for my training, but then his schedule changed at the last minute and he was able to make it. You can actually search by a bunch of different fields, but it's pretty easy to just search by name. I'm going to type in the first name test, last name staff, and then after I hit enter or click search, it'll show him in the results. Then I click the teeny tiny plus sign to the left of the name. Then he will appear in the selected user area. Now let's say that Test Dean also came. I'm going to search for Test, and there she is. Go ahead and add her to the list. Now let's say that Test Dean actually didn't come. I would just click the tiny trash can to the left of her name, and then she would be off of this selected users list. But she did attend, so I'll leave her on there. Usually I'll search for whichever name is the most unique, whether it's the person's first name or their last name. When you're done, be sure to click the Done button. If you accidentally click the Close button, it erases everything you've just done. It'd be much better to have the word cancel on this button instead of close, but I digress. All right, once you've clicked the Done button, you may think you're done, but there's actually one more step. We're taken back to the main roster page, but those users that I just added haven't technically been added yet. They're still pending. So now I have to click on the button, Add Pending Users to Roster. If I'm doing this before the class has taken place, then I would keep this checkbox checked next to Send Emails so that the people would get an email letting them know that they've just been enrolled in my class. If I'm adding people after the fact, so after the class or workshop has occurred, I usually uncheck this box because it can be confusing for someone to get an email that they've just been registered in a class that already took place. Since I'm adding these folks after the event already occurred, I'm going to uncheck this box, and then I'll click Add Pending Users to Roster. Now I can see that Test Dean and Test Staff have been added to my roster, and in case you're wondering, yes, you can add people after you've already submitted the roster. Maybe you accidentally skipped a name as you were going through the sign-in sheet, for example. This next part is very important. You might have noticed in this scenario, I'd already submitted the roster for this class, and I had marked test faculty and test management as having attended. However, Cornerstone only sometimes marks the new people as having attended. In this video you're watching now, this happened to be one of those times where it automatically marked the new people that I just added as having already attended. Unfortunately, there's some sort of bug in Cornerstone where it doesn't always do that, even though it's theoretically supposed to. So, whenever you add people after the fact, after you've already submitted the roster, double check whether or not Cornerstone has marked them as present. You may need to go in and manually mark them as having attended. And if you had to do so, i.e. you had to manually mark them as having attended, don't forget to resubmit the roster. Here's a review of the steps. First, make sure you're on the roster screen because that's the screen where you'll find the link to add users. Once you click on that link, a window will appear where you can search by name. Click on the tiny plus sign to the left of the name to add that person to the list. Repeat these steps until you have everybody on the list that you need to. Once you have everyone on the list, scroll down to the bottom of that pop-up window and click the Done button. Be sure to click the Done button and not the Close button. Next, you'll decide if you want emails sent to the attendees. You will either keep the box checked or uncheck it accordingly. Then, click the button for Add Pending Users to Roster. If you had already submitted the roster, double-check if Cornerstone marked these new people as having attended. You may need to go in and mark them as having attended yourself, in which case you'll need to resubmit the roster.